All the animals except the tortoises that lived by the lakeside ran into the jungle in panic as loud noises echoed during a heavy rainstorm. Yet, curiously, there was no thunder at that moment. After a few minutes, the rain ceased, and a deep darkness spread through the jungle. The tortoises remained unbothered, perched on rocks in the middle of the lake, unaffected by the eerie atmosphere. Nearby was the village of Shel, a quaint place with only 50 families, mostly farmers living simple, peaceful lives. However, the villagers believed that the jungle was cursed. They whispered tales of people who ventured into the dense forest never to return. Rumors abounded that a demon haunted the jungle, capturing anyone who dared to enter. In the past, the villagers used the jungle for daily tasks, but now they lived in fear, avoiding the place at all costs. Among the villagers was a wealthy family, though they had suffered great loss. The family's mother and one of the sons had been killed in a brutal terrorist attack, leaving the father and a son named Steve to live with sorrow. After the tragedy, Steve, once kind, grew cold and selfish. Every night, he poured his thoughts into a diary, recording the events of his life. Years later, Steve's father succumbed to a devastating epidemic, leaving Steve completely alone. In solitude, Steve reflected on his past, recalling how his once close relatives gradually distanced themselves, taking advantage of his family's wealth and using deceitful words to steal his property. While he thought about revenge, his mind was filled with bitterness and hatred toward society. Driven by anger, Steve decided to live away from the prying eyes of the village. Knowing the villagers feared the jungle, he deemed it the perfect hiding place. To earn a living, he joined the army, where he learned to handle weapons and tactics. He was known for his bravery and dedication, earning respect from his comrades for his seemingly innocent demeanor. One day, while on leave, Steve met his relative, Chubby. Together, they decided to explore the jungle, admiring its mysterious beauty. As they sat under a massive tree, talking about family and old grievances, Steve's anger flared. In a fit of rage, he committed his first murder, killing Chubby in the secluded darkness of the jungle. Steve returned to his village the next day without mentioning the incident to anyone, and the villagers assumed that Chubby had fallen victim to the mythical jungle demon. Steve's best friend in the army was Nick, who, unlike Steve, was openly troublesome and disruptive. Despite his friend's flaws, Steve maintained a facade of friendship, hiding his true feelings. During an assignment to quell a rebellion, Steve seized the opportunity to kill Nick without arousing suspicion, marking his second murder. When Steve returned to Shel, he visited the villagers often, chatting and appearing friendly, all the while hiding his dark secrets. Despite his outer warmth, he held onto a deep-seated resentment toward society, blaming it for his losses. No one suspected him. They regarded him as a good-hearted man who had suffered greatly. With the wealth he had accumulated, Steve moved to the city, where he bought a luxurious house with the help of an uncle. They lived together, and Steve appeared to care for him genuinely. However, his malicious intent lingered, and he began adding poison to his uncle's medicine gradually until the old man passed away. The relatives, grateful for Steve's care, never suspected his role in the death. In his new neighborhood, Steve befriended many, spending weekends socializing and drinking with them. Yet, his dark thoughts never ceased. He was constantly plotting his next victim, showing friendliness on the surface while harboring cruel intentions. The community trusted him, unaware of his true nature. Over time, Steve decided to return to Shel. He abandoned his wealth and property in the city and moved back to the village. Isolated in his old home, he frequently visited the jungle, reliving memories of his past crimes. One day, he entered the jungle and never returned. Months later, a villager found Steve's old diary, detailing his life and all the sinister events that had unfolded. Reading the diary, the villager was horrified to discover the truth about the murders and Steve's twisted mind, leaving him no choice but to shout in shock.